Alright, so we're now a little bit over 2 weeks throughout the 2024 NBA season, and a couple days ago I did the best player from every team so far, and it was cool to do this with such a small sample size because we got to talk about how good guys like Alperen Şengün, RJ Barrett, Cam Thomas have been. So now we're going to talk about every team's most disappointing player so far. So I'm recording this on Monday midday, so if somebody drops a 40-point triple-double that was mentioned in this video on Monday night, hey, I'm sorry, I didn't know about it. And I'll know nothing happened on Tuesday because it is election day, there's no NBA games. Guys like Scoot Henderson, Amen Thompson maybe haven't gotten off to the starts that we all thought they would have, but it's only 2 weeks into their NBA careers. Maybe in 4 years from now, I could say they've been disappointing. So yeah, these are guys that maybe are top guys going into the year or had really good 2023 seasons, or either got a new contract in the offseason, maybe were traded and had a lot of hype going into this year, and they're just off to a disappointing start. I'd love to hear in the comments who the most disappointing player on your favorite team is. So yeah, voice your frustration in the comments below. Drop a like if you guys do enjoy the videos, and without further ado, let's get into it. So let's start things off with the Minnesota Timberwolves, and I think their most disappointing player this year has to be Karl Towns. So at the moment I'm recording this, Cat has played in 5 games for the Timberwolves this year at 18.5 points, 9 rebounds, 2.5 assists. All right, fine on the surface level, but he's shooting sub 40% from the field, 25% from 3, which is just an abysmal for somebody that's been very efficient throughout their career so far as a big man. This is now year 2 of the Rudy Gobert, Karl Towns frontcourt experiment, and Rudy Gobert has been phenomenal for the Timberwolves on the defensive end so far. So if Karl Towns isn't giving the Timberwolves what he's had done in the past on the offensive side of the floor, they may look to ship off Cat rather than Gobert. It is a long season though. I do think Cat will bounce back to what he did in 2023, get that field goal percentage up to the high 40s, get that 3-point percentage up to the mid 30s, basically what he's done throughout his whole career. But yeah, it's definitely a disappointing start for Cat on the Timberwolves this year. Next up, we got the Oklahoma City Thunder. I was shocked to see how bad he's been this year to at least start the season, and that's Josh Giddy. And I think Josh Giddy has still been relatively fine for the Thunder. He's averaged 13.5 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists. We know that he's able to impact the floor and the game in many ways that doesn't come with his shooting, because so far this year, he's shooting 41% from the field and 26% from 3 and 77% from the line. He's averaging almost 3 turnovers a night, and we know he's not the greatest defender in the world. But like I said, Giddy can impact the game in many different ways. He could facilitate, he could push the floor, run in transition, make maybe that second pass that doesn't lead to an assist, but have that offense flow in a way that really can have an efficient half-court set. But yeah, maybe in year 3 for Josh Giddy going into his age 21 season, we thought this could be a full-on breakout year for Giddy. And he's gone off to a little bit of a slow start on the offensive end. It really comes in games 1, 2, and 4 for him on the year. He played well against Detroit. He played well against the Warriors in that loss over the weekend. And Giddy has looked very good so far in his career so far, so I have no doubt he will bounce back. All right, for the Utah Jazz, I'm going to go with Jordan Clarkson. He's been off to an abysmal start shooting the ball. Jordan Clarkson, who got a new extension from the Utah Jazz this offseason, is starting off the season shooting 36% from the field, 30% from 3, and 75% from the line. We know Clarkson also isn't the greatest defender in the world too, but you know what? He has been a solid facilitator this year. I will give him that, averaging 4.9 assists to start the year, which would be a career high if he's able to stay at that level throughout the year. He's played in all 7 of the Utah Jazz's games so far, and the Jazz as a team hasn't looked great by any means, so they really need Clarkson to play at a solid level if they're maybe going to look at trading him at the deadline this year, because he was rumored to be traded last year. He's making $23.5 million this year. He is the second highest paid player on this team right now behind John Collins, and Jordan Clarkson can be one of those players that could shoot you out of the game, so I'm hoping that he will bounce back for the Jazz sooner than later. All right, where do I start with the Portland Trailblazers? I'm going to go with Jeremy Grant just because he signed a 5-year, $160 million contract with the Blazers in the offseason. You could obviously have Scoot Henderson in here. He did not get off to a great start in his NBA career, but hey, it's the first couple games of his career. He's 19 years old. Let's give him a break. I think Malcolm Brogdon has also been disappointing this year, and at times DeAndre Ayton has been disappointing. But yeah, I opted to go with Jeremy Grant. Yes, he's averaging 20 points, but you know what he's also averaging? 39% from the field, 29% from 3. I think at times he's looked fine defensively, but maybe not the Jeremy Grant that you'd hoped he'd be after you gave him $160 million in the offseason. I still can't believe the Trailblazers did that, because they gave him that contract in the moratorium phase, and then Dame requested a trade a day after they agreed on it, so they could have backed out. Yes, maybe it wouldn't be the best look on their part. But yeah, Grant has averaged a decent amount of points this season. He's got 4 games north of 22 points, but it just hasn't been efficient whatsoever. All right, this one is a little bit shocking for the Denver Nuggets. Like, they've been very good this year, and I think a lot of these players really haven't been disappointing. I'm going to go with Jamal Murray. Yeah, Jamal Murray, the player that was phenomenal for their championship run in the 2023 playoffs. But I think Murray this year has been a little bit disappointing. He's averaging 16 points, 2.5 rebounds, and 7.5 assists. I mean, 16 points seems a little bit low, but it's nice to see him averaging 7.5 assists when his career average is 4.3. He's been fine from the field at 43%. He's been elite from 3 at 44%. I just thought that maybe we'd see a more explosive offensive game, especially scoring the ball from Jamal Murray out of the gate. Like over his last 4 full games, 19 points, 18 points, 14 points, and 18 points. Now you can impact the game in many other ways, but he shot under 36% in those 4 games, and he's now got a hamstring injury that he may be out for a little bit. So yeah, you could say it's been a little bit of a letdown from Jamal Murray based off what he just did in the playoffs just a couple months ago. So speaking of players and what they did a couple months ago, Austin Reeves in the playoffs and with Team USA in the summer had his stock skyrocket. He's fresh off a new extension. People knew coming in that he's going to be the Lakers' 3rd best player. His nickname is Hillbilly Kobe, and he's definitely off to a start he wish he could forget. Reeves is averaging 12.5 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, shooting sub 40% from the field, sub 30% from 3, and just doesn't look like he's really involved all that much on the offensive side. Now he's coming off a really nice offensive game, at least scoring the ball, 20 points on 64% shooting against the loss against the Magic. Yeah, the Lakers a couple of nights ago dropped 127 in a loss against the Kings, and Reeves shot 1 for 12. That's 8% field goal percentage. So yeah, definitely not up to the best start for Austin Reeves in the world. I do think he'll get back to what we saw from him in the 2023 regular season, but it's been a little bit weird, not gonna lie. All right, so we have an anomaly here. The LA Clippers do not have anybody that's been disappointing. Kawhi, Paul George, Russell Westbrook, Zubats, Bones Highland, Mason Plumlee, Norman Powell have all been efficient, I think fine on the defensive side of the ball for what we know that they can be. They just got James Harden and PJ Tucker, so they shipped off Marcus Morris, Robert Covington, Nick Batum, and KJ Martin. So yeah, I'm not going to just put somebody in here for the sake of putting somebody in here. I don't think anybody's been disappointing for the Clippers. Hey, if you're a Clippers fan and you think somebody has been disappointing, let me know in the comments below. Maybe somebody just stinks the bed against the Knicks on Monday night. So the Phoenix Suns have had a ton of injuries to start the season. Bradley Beal has still yet to make his Suns debut. Devin Booker has been hurt all year so far. Kevin Durant, though, has been carrying this team. But a player that they got in the offseason via trade, not Bradley Beal, Yousef Nurkic, has been ass so far. Nurkic is averaging 9 points, 8 rebounds, and 4 assists tonight. Hey, 4 assists, odd for a big man, but he's shooting 37% from the field, 24% from 3, and in my opinion, just not the guy you want being your rim protector at all. I think he looked somewhat better against the Detroit Pistons the other night on November 5th, but besides that, I think he's kind of looked lost as their main rim protector and leader on that interior defense. Like Josh Okogie has been by far their best defender this year, and I think they couldn't rely too much on Nurkic sometimes in these drop sets that they're doing under Frank Vogel. The Suns are definitely going to be an inconsistent team this year if any of these guys are out, and obviously their bench isn't the greatest in the world. But yeah, definitely not off to the best start of his Suns career for Yousef Nurkic. All right, so there could be 2 players for the Sacramento Kings. I'm not going to go with Keegan Murray because maybe it's just a sophomore slump to start off the year. I'm going to go with Kevin Huerter. So at the moment I'm recording this, Huerter has played 5 games this season. This dude was one of the best 3-point shooters last year. He's arguably been one of the best 3-point shooters in the league since he entered the NBA from the 2018 draft. And this year for the Kings, he's shooting 29% from the field and 20% from 3. 20% from 3. He's a career 38% shooter. And if Kevin Huerter is not hitting his threes, what is he good for at times for you? I do think he's a fine passer. He's actually a solid rebounder for somebody with his size. But yeah, Huerter has just been abysmal shooting the ball this year. He had a 3 for 9 performance against Utah, an 0 for 5 performance against the Warriors, 4 for 12 against the Lakers, 4 for 11 against the Warriors again, and then 2 for 8 against the Rockets. He's going to really have to step up with De'Aaron Fox being out at times, and we just haven't seen it at all. And going a little bit south to Golden State for the Warriors, it has definitely been Andrew Wiggins in my opinion. Yeah, Andrew Wiggins just doesn't look super involved in this offense this year. Like for him, just averaging 12 points, 3 rebounds, sub assist a night at 0.7. He's shooting 44% from the field, 20% from 3, and 57% from the line. It is just not a great start offensively for Wiggins this year. I also don't think Wiggins has really been all that good defensively either. And I know Wiggins had personal issues last year, so he wasn't fully on the floor, and he really got ramped up later in the year and really going into that playoff series against the Kings and against the Lakers. So I'm going to give Wiggins the benefit of the doubt for sure. And it is only 7 games, but it is a little alarming to see him being this phased out of this Warriors team overall. All right, let's go to Texas. Let's talk about the San Antonio Spurs, who have been in the news for good reasons, with Victor Wembanyama being basically what everybody thought he would be so far to start his career. But who's been disappointing has been Jeremy Sohan. which pains me to say. Because going into this year, I was so excited about Point Sohan for them, but that experiment has not worked out at all. Sohan, while averaging 5 assists a night, was just not the leader he needed to be for the point guard spot for the Spurs, shooting 40% from the field, 22% from 3, sub 70% from the line. The Clippers game on October 29th, in which they lost by 40 points, he was a minus 30. It was actually one of the worst games from somebody all year. He's also turned the ball over a decent amount as well, so I'm hoping this is just a little bit of a sophomore slump for Sohan to start year 2, and he'll be much better when he's not going to be the point guard going forward. I don't want to say Kyrie Irving's washed by any means. He's coming off that contract extension. He was good last year for the Nets and at times for the Mavericks, but he just doesn't look like the Kyrie of old to start off 2024. Just Kyrie shooting 44% from the field and 21% from 3 is a little weird. He's averaging under 20 points per game, but he is averaging 7.5 assists. He has been dealing with a foot issue this year, so that could be it. But yeah, just definitely a weird start for Kyrie in his first full year with the Dallas Mavericks, but hey, it's a very small sample size. Let's stay in Texas for the third team here. Let's talk about Jaylen Green on the Houston Rockets. So Jaylen Green is averaging 17 points this year, shooting sub 40% from the field, 31% from 3, and 73% from the line. You can kind of also give this award to Fred VanVleet. But yeah, I just thought Jaylen Green would be a little bit better out of the gate. Now, he's had some great games this year. They did lose to the Spurs by 4 in overtime, but that was a fantastic game from him this season. But he's just had a lot of like semi-inefficient shooting nights. And I think at times he's actually looked pretty positive on the defensive side of the floor. But with guys from the 2021 draft class balling out this year, like Scotty Barnes, Franz Wagner, Cade Cunningham, and Evan Mobley at times, it probably pains Rockets fans a little bit to see Jaylen Green not take that next step yet. I know he played well the other night against Portland, but I'm going with Luke Canard for the Memphis Grizzlies. So yeah, it could also be a bunch of player for the Grizzlies this year because they have been off to an abysmal start without Ja Morant. And similar to Kevin Huerter, like what is Luke Kennard supposed to do for you if he's not going to be on shooting the ball? Shooting 26% from the field and 26% from 3. He's got to get his shot together if the Memphis Grizzlies need and want to go on a little bit of a winning streak because they desperately need it. For the New Orleans Pelicans, I was going to go like originally Jordan Hawkins, but I didn't want to go with any rookies. So a lot of these guys actually haven't been that disappointing this year, but I'm going to go with Kyrie Lewis. I think the jury is out on him from him being like what we thought he could be out of Alabama from the 2020 draft. Like Lewis this season is averaging 13 minutes a night, but he has been really bad when he's on the floor, shooting 32% from the field, 9% from 3. At times can look okay on the defensive side of the floor, but I don't think good enough where you could justify him playing 12 minutes at least when the games become more meaningful. And it's sad to see because I was super high on Lewis coming out of Alabama. All right, so for the New York Knicks, are you really about to be surprised with who I'm about to say? Yeah, it's been Julius Randle, the dude that's been shooting toward it. Now, Randle could have a fine game against the LA Clippers, but this is still going to be his spot by far. Randle is off to one of the worst starts from anybody, basically of all time shooting the ball. This dude was all NBA third team last year, and he started off through his first 6 games this year, averaging 14 points, 10 rebounds and 5 assists. Okay, fine. Maybe he's just becoming a little bit less selfish, maybe not shooting the ball as much. No, he still is. And he's shooting 27% from the field, 22% from 3, 62% from the line. And when I tell you he sucks on the defensive side of the floor, that would be an understatement. He has terrible body language. He doesn't get back on defense when he makes an abysmal turnover, in which he's been turning the ball over almost 3 times a game. He's almost averaging more turnovers than field goals made. I can't even wrap my head around that. He's averaging double the turnovers than he is 3-pointers made. I really can't go much longer talking about Julius Randle. It's going to make me so angry, and I'm not going to be able to finish this video, but yeah, Julius Randle has been super disappointing for the Knicks this year based off what he did last year for them in the regular season. So I mentioned a little bit before when I was talking about Jaylen Green how good Scotty Barnes has been this year, and I talked about him in the best player from every team so far. Pascal Siakam, though, has definitely been disappointing. So Siakam's like numbers have been fine. I think he's been okay on the floor for like just a solid NBA player. 15 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, shooting 41% from the field, 33% from 3. But these are just not the Pascal Siakam numbers we have known him for. I was so high on Pascal Siakam last year, and he had arguably the best season of his career. And this year, he has just been off to a very disappointing start for Darko Rajakovic, the new head coach for the Toronto Raptors. He's still playing a ton of minutes a night as well, averaging over 35 minutes, but we kind of all knew that in the back of our minds that him and Scotty Barnes may not work out together. Were they going to move Scotty Barnes for like a Damian Lillard or Kevin Durant at one point? They never wanted to do that. So now it's looking more likely, because Siakam is a free agent this offseason, that he may not be a Raptor after this season, maybe not after this deadline. So for the Brooklyn Nets, like they've had a couple injuries this year to Cam Johnson and Nick Claxton, but I ended up going with Mikal Bridges. I don't think he's been super disappointing. I just thought what we saw in the second half last year, that we were going to see Mikal Bridges come out of the gate, be maybe a mid 20 point per game scorer, and his efficiency hasn't been like super elite like what we saw at the end of last year when he got traded to the Nets. And Cam Thomas has been their leading scorer this year. You guys saw him being mentioned in Sunday's video. So I don't think Mikal Bridges has been bad by any means. We know how good he is on the defensive side of the floor as well. I just thought he'd be more of a true number one option to start the year. The Philadelphia 76ers have definitely been better than people expected to start the year. I'm going to go with Shake Milton for this video. Shake Milton came in as basically their sixth man going into this year, but Kelly Oubre has been so good for the Sixers this season. And now with James Harden gone, Shake Milton, you think is going to have a much larger role. But I don't know if that's going to happen because in 5 games this year, he's averaging 5 points, 1 rebound, and 1 assist, shooting 33% from the field, 30% from 3. And with more veterans coming in like Robert Covington, Marcus Morris, and a non-veteran but KJ Martin, who they definitely want to play, we may see even less minutes to Shake Milton. Yeah, over the last 5 games, he's only had 1 be above 20 minutes per game. So it's just not working out for Shake in 2024 so far. The Boston Celtics have been so good this year. They've been the best team in the Eastern Conference by far. And their starting 5, their top 5 guys have been absolutely elite. But they definitely have a player that's been disappointing, and that is Peyton Pritchard, who got a new extension this past offseason. Peyton Pritchard looked really solid in the preseason as well, but he's 25 years old. And in 5 games this year, he's averaging 4.5 points, 2.5 rebounds, and shooting below 30% from the field and 17% from 3. He could not hit a shot to save his life to start the year. He did have a nice game against the Indiana Pacers when they ended up winning by 51 points. He was able to play 26 minutes in that one. He's definitely done like a solid job facilitating the ball this year. He's just not been a great shooter by any means. Definitely a shocker to be talking about him in this video, but Jimmy Butler has been the most disappointing player for the Miami Heat. Tyler Hero has been by far the best player for the Heat so far this season, or at least on the offensive side of the ball. And Jimmy has just been pretty inefficient. He's averaging 17 points, 7 rebounds, and 3 assists. He's shooting 40% from the field, 33% from 3, and the Miami Heat as a team has not been off to a good start either. I didn't really expect the Heat to be a solid regular season team throughout this year, and we knew that they were going to be a team you did not want to face in the playoffs. They're probably going to be in the play-in tournament or something like that. But yeah, it's definitely been a disappointing start for Jimmy Butler and the Miami Heat just as a whole. He had a really good game against the Mavericks the other night, and he had a great defensive fourth quarter against the Pacers the game before that. But I'm going to go with LaMelo Ball with the Charlotte Hornets, and it's purely for his shooting aspect, because LaMelo this year is averaging just 17 points on 34% field goal percentage and 32% from 3. He's able to impact the game in many other ways. He's a good rebounder, he's a great facilitator, and he's a good free throw shooter, and he can get to the line a decent amount as well. Like I said, he had a really good game against the Mavericks in which they lost by 6, and he went off in the fourth quarter. But in that game where he had a great defensive fourth quarter against the Pacers, he did struggle from the field. He shot 4 for 15, 26% overall. He struggled against Brooklyn, struggled against Detroit shooting the ball, but I think he'll be fine throughout the season. Someone else that impacts the game in a lot of ways but has been very disappointing shooting the ball this year, it's Trae Young of the Atlanta Hawks. The Atlanta Hawks are off to a fantastic start this season. I currently have them as number 11 in my power rankings, and they were like 17 the week prior. And I do think that they were an underrated team when it came to preseason projection. And while DeJounte Murray, Jalen Johnson, DeAndre Hunter, and a lot of Hawks have been solid this year, Trae Young has been kind of the opposite of that when it at least comes to shooting. He's shooting 34% from the field, 28% from 3, 21 points per game, which is a low for Trae Young and what his game is. He is averaging 10 assists, and that's what I meant when he can impact the game in many other ways, but he's been disappointing. You could have also said Capella as well. The Orlando Magic, like the Atlanta Hawks, have been off to a great start this season, but somebody that has been disappointing, and he just got hurt as well, has been Wendell Carter Jr. He's just not been efficient at all. 37% from the field, 31% from 3, and like I said, he just got hurt also, so we're seeing more Goga Bitadze and Mo Wagner in Orlando. And I think Carter was fine as a defender to start the year, but nothing crazy, or at least seeing him take a next step. It is a shame though, because in his final game before getting hurt, he definitely had the best game of his season so far. So I'm hoping that he comes back at full strength from the left hand injury, which should be in about a month from now. And this season is about to be a roller coaster for Jordan Poole and the Washington Wizards. I think he's definitely been the most disappointing player on this team by far. The Wizards do not look very good, and I think they should focus more on guys like Denny Avdija, Corey Kispert, and Bilal Coulibaly, because there's at times where Jordan Poole and Kyle Kuzma have been very inefficient for this team. You've seen Poole just take a 3, turn away, thinking it's going to go in and miss it, or just doing some dumb move in transition, or being down 20 and just throwing an alley-oop off the back. Jordan Poole has been inefficient this year. He's not been good on the defensive side of the ball, and he hasn't even put up as many points per game as we thought he would. He's averaging just 17.5 points. People thought there was a chance he could average north of 25, and that could definitely still happen, but he's definitely off to a disappointing start. Man, what's going on with Benedict Mathurin this year in year 2? He's coming in here for the Pacers. He's been inefficient. I feel like he's just been kind of phased out of this offense overall. I think Buddy Hield's been getting more involved, Bruce Brown, and it's weird because the Pacers have been off to a solid start this season. They've been putting up a lot of points as well, but it's not becoming a thing for Benedict Mathurin to really get involved on this team. Like I said, he's been inefficient, shooting below 40% from the field. He's shooting 25% from 3. I don't know, something just weird seems going on in Indiana. If you're a Pacers fan, let me know what's happening in the comments below. Man, this could be a lot of players for Chicago, a lot of players players have been either inefficient, not good defenders, and just the Bulls this year have been a massive disappointment. I'm going to go with Patrick Williams, though. He's already been phased out of the starting lineup. He's coming off the bench now. And in 7 games this year, he's averaging 5.3 points, which is basically half of what he did in his career before that. 3.4 rebounds, 1.6 assists. He's shooting 32.5% from the field, 16% from 3. And I think he's still a solid defender. He's just been so unplayable on the offensive side of the ball. And it's funny too, because it just seems like Patrick Williams is always going to be that guy that could possibly break out. And he was solid last year for the Bulls, but this year he's just off to an abysmal start. And he's a restricted free agent at the end of the year. And I do wonder if he's going to be on this Bulls team past the deadline. The Cleveland Cavaliers gave Max Strus a decent amount of money last offseason, giving him the full mid-level exception. And he has been very inefficient this year. So like Luke Canard and like Kevin Huerter, like what else is Max Strus going to give you when he's inefficient? Because he has not been shooting the ball well at all. Sub 40% from the field, sub 30% from 3, and that's his main skill. I think Max Strus is a better defender than Luke Canard or Kevin Huerter, but I think Strus has been a little bit disappointing, and he's definitely asked to take on a much larger role than expected with Darius Garland hurt. Donovan Mitchell is nursing a hamstring injury. Jared Allen's been out. You could also mention Georges Niang has been very disappointing for the Cavs this year too, but I didn't really have high expectations for him. I'm not really a big Niang fan. So yeah, I do think Max Strus will have better efficiency once he's not asked to really be the number 2 scorer on this team once Garland comes back. All right, I'm gonna go with Brook Lopez for the Milwaukee Bucks. You could just say the Bucks defense as a whole has been massively disappointing. I think it's more with Adrian Griffin's new defensive scheme than really Brook Lopez overall on that side of the floor. But it does seem weird with Lopez being their main rim protector this year. It just doesn't seem he's as forceful as he's been in years past. He also has been like solid from 3 at 37%, but he's not really been an overall efficient guy this year, at least from the field. He's not as good of a rebounder as he was last year, but you know, he did have 8 blocks against the Knicks the other night, so maybe it's going to be fine going forward. You can also mention Pat Connaughton for this spot. So yeah, Bucks fans, let me know in the comments who you'd pick. It could even be Damian Lillard just with his start, but you know, we got to give him some time in Milwaukee. And lastly, for the Detroit Pistons, I'm going to go with Jaden Ivey. I actually think Jaden Ivey has been really good in the limited playing time he's had this year. He's only averaging 20 minutes a night. For some reason, Monty Williams would rather play Killian Hayes 8 more minutes a night than Jaden Ivey. It really doesn't make any sense because Ivey is a better player in my opinion. He was literally the 5th overall pick in the 2022 draft, and he had a great second half to end up his rookie season. And he's been efficient so far. He's shooting 49% from the field, 40 from 3, so I think he's been disappointing. It has nothing to do with him, and it's really all on Monty Williams. So yeah, that is giving it for me. I hope you guys did enjoy the video. Let me know who is the most disappointing player on your favorite team so far this season, and do you agree or disagree with any of my selections? Let me know down below. So yeah, if you guys did enjoy it, I'd appreciate you dropping a thumbs up. Like always, I love you guys, and I'll catch you all on the next one.